Just before we get into this episode of the FlowCast, I want to take a minute to forewarn you. It's a little bit different from our usual format. Josh and Dan, if you can't tell, are good friends of ours, and so it got a little bit crazy, a little bit funny. And I knew this going into it, so it wasn't like it was a big surprise, but it is a little bit chaotic, a little bit less formal and organized as the usual FlowCast episode. So I hope you bear with us because it was a good episode, lots of good information about their upcoming trail run, as well as some cool mental toughness tips and tricks that you'll get from two guys that really excel in that field, Josh and Dan. But it was also something where they told me that they were going to dress up silly for this, and I didn't know what to expect. So I definitely suggest you click over to the YouTube video if you're listening to the audio form of this, because you're going to get a lot more laughs and understand what's going on if you do at least check out some of the images or some of the shots from this episode of the FlowCast. Oh, and one more thing. Josh usually doesn't control his vocabulary very well, so this is going to be more of an explicit episode, not really suited for any of the kids that may be listening in the background. So be sure to pop in those headphones or, listen to it on your commute or something where you don't have kids in the car.
Is that a towel or a scarf?
Well, we're running outdoors in the winter. I figured you need to wear a scarf, right?
Yeah. Well, they're wearing.
Are you going to do the race?
He's ready.
I kind of heard that you might.
Is it not today?
Yeah, it's after this. We go right to it.
I need to hydrate for this one.
He's like, just water. I'm like,
more hydrating than
this, which has like tons of shit in it.
Yeah, you put a lot of accoutrements in there.
Well, you got freaking bath water, you turd. Slushy water.
Scoop it into the tank if you want.
After Teddy.
Oh, yeah. Like Gatorade, basically.
I think you'd probably
drink that water.
I think
so good.
I think you would get the runs from that water. One.
Oh, I would, yeah.
With all the magnesium.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have a real good sleep too.
Yeah. You would.
No headaches.
Yeah. But speaking of the runs.
Oh, we're using that to start. That's good.
Oh, nice.
Should we do a disclaimer?
Isn't that
we need a...
That was good. Disclaimer, there's going to be a lot of riffraff in this podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
This won't be the most serious of episodes, so...
Actually, Dan's pretty serious about this episode.
Yeah.
I'm very serious. You want to do a job interview after?
Yeah.
Pet value.
I think this is definitely one that people will want to check out on YouTube.
I think you should, if you're listening to this,
if you're listening
in, watch it instead.
At least see a clip of the outfits we got on here.
They have on them.
People ever just stare at the camera?
No. I don't think Dan knows what we're doing today. He's sort of...
This is an intervention, isn't it?
Yeah, we have an issue with your shorts.
They're too long.
Yes.
It's okay. We got it covered up by the microphone. So.
Yeah.
That's right.
Anyway. Perfect. Thank you.
That's good.
You're welcome.
Man.
Well, are we ready to start?
I think we already started.
Yeah. Sure. What time you gotta leave? Soon? Good till 9. I'm good till 2.
Good till 2. I got a meeting at 9:30.
Do you want to?
I would put this on the other table so we're not rattling the mic though.
Oh, right. So professional. Good call. Let me put my shorts back on.
All right.
Okay. So we've got Josh and Dan here today. And Josh and I had a fun episode a while back. We started off in the sauna, and we had a cold tub together before. Or actually, we did it afterwards, but we kind of made it seem like it was
It was part of the whole thing. And
No, you just ruined the illusion.
We acted.
yeah,
We were professional
pretty cool.
actors. Yeah. People didn't know we didn't do that.
but we've got Dan Groudon here with us as well today, and these guys are putting on a pretty cool event at the end of the month. So I wanted to get them on to talk about that, and maybe as seriously as we can get. Kind of.
You just talked to Siri when you said seriously.
Even Siri's trying to get in on this conversation. Anyway, maybe we'll get some cool tips for the people that actually want to take part in this and find out what's going on. But
Be good to give them tips.
yeah,
And
Okay.
tricks. Yeah.
I think so. Try to get everybody involved. But
Yeah.
whoever wants to go first, kind of talk about what's happening at the end of the month.
I guess I'll start.
Sounds good.
So we decided to put on a little bit of a fun event that is new and different to the area. It's based on a backyard ultra marathon, which is essentially a closed loop where people every hour on the hour run the same loop, and then it's an elimination.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most recent ones was held by Lazarus, who hosted Barkley Marathons, and the winners ran over 60 hours.
Woo.
So we thought we'd scale it back quite a bit.
Okay.
It's going to be a mini version, a 10-hour time cap.
Okay.
But basically, Saturday, November the 30th at Haroldtown Conservation, starting at 7 a.m., there's a 2.68 kilometer loop, and we are going to start. You have half hour to complete the loop. If you finish in 20 minutes, you have 10 minutes rest.
Mm-hmm.
7:30, same thing. Half hour to complete the loop, so on and so forth. After 4 hours, then we start the elimination. So then the last person in each loop will be eliminated. And we'll continue till 5 p.m. and see who's left standing.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's like everyone's getting in around, 18 kilometers before you start eliminating?
Yeah,
Something like
that.
So that's already.
Yeah, 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already
That's already something to talk
decent
about.
amount. It's already something to talk about. I mean, we could start there.
Yeah.
I thought the eliminations would start after the first round. I think I don't know if I'm suited for this thing, but
Well,
You might be able to eliminate yourself.
you could.
my one of
You
the
can walk that long in half an hour, though. Can't you?
I was walking last night and I got thinking
Probably.
I could probably walk that distance in half an hour.
So there
And
you
so I'm
go.
wondering.
So
Spend 4
wondering about
hours
that.
going on a real steady hike.
Yeah.
just keep in mind, like the elimination round, it probably won't be the quickest if you're walking.
Yeah.
But for the first 4 hours, go for it.
Saves energy. You could
Yeah.
then sprint that one.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. So yeah, the idea was definitely from that, and kind of stemmed from like some CrossFit workouts where you do like an every minute on the minute or every whatever, you pick a time and just repeat it,
Yeah.
which does pose a different challenge mentally too, because you have to focus on a specific pace.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we thought 30 minutes would be better, because if it was an hour, we figured people would be waiting too long in between, and if there were any spectators, it would be a really big pain in the butt, like to be hanging out for an hour if you miss them.
Yeah.
So we thought half an hour would be better, more repeats, more like social time too, right?
Yeah.
Because a big part of it is community.
Yeah.
You want to get something together for Peterborough that can be fun and challenging too, but also just like people meeting other people that are like-minded that are running in the winter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the smaller time also isn't as scary to people
Yeah.
to join
Yeah, it's approachable in some capacity.
in.
yeah,
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, especially when you think, like I just said, I think most people could probably walk, or like, even if you like jog for 5 minutes of that time, you would probably complete, at least a couple of the rounds to kind of get going,
Mm-hmm.
which is
So any
interesting
level,
thing.
really.
Has it,
Yeah.
you haven't revealed the actual trail yet, right? You kind of just did a teaser of like how long it took you when you did a test run of it.
Yeah, not that I know of, unless Shaw's had.
I wouldn't tell you if I had.
He's like,
So it's still a surprise.
Facetious.
Still a surprise.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess what we can say is they're pretty wide trails. They're moderate. There's no like really steep pitches.
Oh, okay.
Maybe one or two, but overall it's kind of welcoming to everyone. They're still fun trails to run.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a couple trials and it was like, this is like pretty slick here. Or,
we were glad we didn't do some of the more difficult ones because you just increase the risk of people falling and smashing their shin or twisting their ankle or slipping or and it's already going to be, well, we don't know exactly what the weather's going to be, but right around zero winter, so more slippery than usual. So we tried to pick something that was a little bit more friendly but still challenging to the runner that wanted to push himself.
Are you guys planning to groom the trails before, or is it just kind of as is? What's the
as is?
Yeah, just let her go. I don't think you can, unless we got like a huge snowpack. There's not much you could really do, I guess.
We'll probably go like a day or two before just to sort of double check if a tree's falling down or something, then do that, but nothing major.
Okay.
If there's a big pile of dog crap or something, we can move that.
We'll leave it. It's
it'll be frozen or close to.
Yeah.
So,
leave it.
other than kind of getting this inspiration from like you said, the sort of backyard ultras and stuff, is there any other impetus for doing this, or what kind of sprang it to mind for you guys?
To be honest, I don't remember. We always kind of talk about doing kind of weird events or things.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that we talked about this, I guess maybe last week or the week before, is one thing that we have in common is I could say, do you want to go run 60 kilometers through the woods or go jump in an ice cold river? And Josh wouldn't even
just a
bad
couple
night.
of
Like,
normal dudes doing a couple of normal
where most people are like, oh, you're nuts. Oh, that's crazy. He's like, okay, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So
try to make fun of you sometimes, actually.
I know when it hurts on the inside.
Underneath his hoop.
It's okay.
There we go. So, Dan, have you done any sort of, like, I know that you've ran in a dark box for a day, but have you done any sort of like ultra runs, or I don't know your story
Not
with
in
your feet?
Competition.
Okay.
I've done one longish, or I shouldn't say long, one long run by myself after I was done speed skating.
Cool. What was long for you?
70K.
Yeah, just an easy run. Lunchtime jog.
So I had a 10K loop, and I would just go out, come back, get some water, come back, and did it in 7 hours. I wasn't like trying to break a speed record, but
that's still great.
Yeah, no, it was fast, but it was that's probably the longest run I've done. But I haven't really done much competing in endurance events aside from adventure racing, stuff like that.
Okay.
So you just straight up enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, no.
You don't need anyone cheering you on. You just go do it.
I just find it fun.
That's cool.
Form of therapy, I guess, too.
Sure.
You go.
Just because we've talked about Josh's backstory with some of the mental toughness challenge races that he likes to do, but just for anybody that's not familiar listening in, what's a little bit more on your backstory, Dan? Like, what have you done that's led up to this, as far as that mental toughness as well as like sports?
Okay. I spent many years, I guess, in high performance sport, mostly with hockey. Played it at a fairly high level, and then from there went to speed skating and skated with the national team for a few years out in Calgary. And I mean, there'd be days where you'd be training 7, 8, 10 hours a day on your bike. I remember being in Arizona doing like a 6-hour bike ride in the morning, and then like 2-3 hours in the weight room in the afternoon. And it just became normal. So I think with anyone, like, what you do, that becomes your normal. So it's not like, to me, it seems normal, but someone else they don't have that experience. So they can work themselves up to that. It's just kind of what happens, I guess.
Cool.
That explains a lot.
And like, because we reference it on the podcast a lot, and whether it's Josh and I talking, but like, you've kind of got a legendary capacity for endurance in Peterborough. And does it like stick with you after all those years, or is that something that you're sort of like, you think that you've kind of been genetically built for in the first place, or a bit of both?
I'd say a bit of both. I think, to be honest, I'm surprised at my endurance still. Just especially after having kids and how little physical activity I do get these days.
Works out like once a month.
But
maintained. It's good.
I think it's just literally 30 years of
high performance sport and
yeah, your
lots of endurance
homeostasis
stuff.
is like way up here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's genetics, but a lot of it just that base that was literally built over 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's kind of, yeah, it's also, it's affirming for anybody that's kind of seeking that stuff too, right? To
just put in 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
as long as it takes.
like a lot of,
30 years.
you know, a lot of powerlifters or powerlifting coaches say the same thing. Like, how do you become a great squatter? Squat every week for 10 years. And it's the same concept. It's whether it's cardio or strength. It's nice to hear because people are always like, I don't know. I think you got to work yourself up to thinking that's nice to hear, right? Because people are looking for that quick fix or that
All the time,
rapid answer to things, but there is no shortcut. And I don't know. There's power in knowing that as well, right? Because then you just have to embrace some people call it the grind or the journey instead of like some end goal that's not going to come for 10, 20, 30 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of just have to make it your life.
Totally.
Yeah. So I know you were on the podcast before. I was a no-show that day, but yeah, I know, flaky.
Yeah.
But for those who maybe didn't catch that one, do you want to just do a little brief synopsis of kind of your endurance challenges, maybe most recently, or?
Yeah, okay. So on paper, I'm not necessarily a great athlete. Like I do like okay at everything. Like really, it's like I'm like an amateur level at pretty much everything, which is fine with me. But I've done most recently, which was like over a year ago now, we did the 24-hour challenge in the shipping container. So some people might know it as Locked and Loaded, which was a 24-hour run in sensory deprived conditions on a true form running machine. And we did that with three opponents and myself in separate shipping containers. And that was, again, kind of an idea just like Dan and I are having, except with John Witzing. And that turned into a kind of a big thing on its own. But that was pretty extreme. And other than that, there was like some other training on kind of on its own, is like Dan saying, when you put in like 9-hour workout days, and that could be totally extreme to some people.
Yeah.
That was like some of the training for that run. So, I mean, some of those you might classify as that. I've only done one ultra run other than that, and it was a 50K in New York, which was hard as shit. And I did a half marathon. Like, just kind of kept really like building it up each time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kind of taking big steps. And then other training, like RJ got me into strongman.
Yeah.
Like 8 years ago or something.
Yeah, something like
2012 is when I started that.
Yeah.
So just having a base of wanting to be better, not always wanting to be the best. It's never actually been about being the best, but being better than I was and having fun with fitness. That's probably it.
Cool. Yeah. That's good. It's very clear you guys are super humble.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't, like, it's just, 70K in the backyard. Like, it's just something I do.
Yeah.
And 24-hour race in a box, it's something I did. But like we said, if it's your normal, it's your normal.
I think, yeah, like kind of the root of both of your guys' kind of a strength that you're not really accentuating here is like this. There is this mental toughness that, like you've said, has been built over many years of putting in work that is definitely superhuman or supernatural to a lot of people. So, in some ways, going into this challenge, like, you guys are well prepared for it because you know how to embrace like that challenging thing. Like every half hour on the half hour for, well, essentially up to 10 hours is a lot of laps, right? Is a lot of work, a long day. How can some of like the other competitors maybe that are coming into this, how can they what we've got like 2 weeks, right? So what would you it's like it's are there any things that you can think of, like whether it's we can break it down into a couple of things. So like the nutrition, hydration, the training in the next couple of weeks, and other like preparedness. What kind of things are you guys doing? Really? Let's try to make it even tougher on you and share your secrets as much as you have thought about it, because you guys are probably just diving in there like whatever. It doesn't even, you're probably not, I don't know if you're putting a lot of thought into it, but what things would you kind of envision doing in the next couple weeks?
I can kind of guess what yours is.
What's that?
Nothing at all.
You might pound out 100 cows on the assault bike.
Yeah, come in to like fix a machine and just set a record on a skier in 10 minutes. That's it.
Do you like when we do that to you, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because we're not going to stop.
What's that?
We're just like, oh yeah, no, Dan's just the best at everything. It's annoying.
Keep going.
He's great. Great legs.
Personality needs... No, it's good too, actually.
Someday.
Yeah. Do you have anything you're working on?
I honestly probably won't do anything. But last night... So...
30 years.
I forget the lady's name, but she had said something on Facebook about, she won't be able to get ready in 2 weeks and whatnot. And I had said to her, well, this is a new event for everyone. No one in the area's done it. So everyone's going in blind. Like, so no one's really prepared for it. You're all in the same boat, rowing the same direction. Like everyone's just going to work out their own thing. So there's not like clear steps. Oh, you need to do this moving forward. And that's what's going to make you successful. You just go into it with an open mind and give it your best, and whatever that is great.
Cool. Josh?
Yeah, what am I doing? Well, I asked Dan the other day, actually, while we were running, while we were sort of figuring out these trails, and I was like, when's the last time you've run? And you were like, probably for like 2 years.
I've never known Dan to be a runner, so this is why it sort of
surprised me.
Well, we did some pretty cool circuits at Good Life.
Oh yeah.
So that was that was more than 2 years ago though.
Yeah.
So you're technically still right. That was like 3 years ago.
He has ran before though, is what we're getting.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of like preparedness, I don't know. Other than the 30-year base you're talking about, you haven't really run much, and I have run I think once in the past month. And then before that, it's pretty sparing. I was like anti-running after that box. I was like, I'm going to do anything else.
Yeah.
So I haven't done much running either. So, I mean, in 2 weeks, you can't really like, I don't know if you can really train for anything, but I think you can like maybe polish some like mindset skills.
Yeah.
And maybe like maintain not getting injured. So I guess if people want like a tip or something, what I'm doing, I recently started doing cold showers again, and I don't know if the water, I don't think it's like a really big toughness thing, but the water didn't feel cold at all, and usually it does. So I'm like, I don't know if like
it didn't feel cold to me this morning either.
No,
but like I think comparison wise with the cold tub,
maybe
it's like it doesn't really feel like it's doing much. But you're right. I think for some people kind of get into it, it could. Yeah, it is a good challenge.
So I mean, like there is an element of cold that's going to be uncomfortable, but you're likely not going to be cold the whole time.
For the race, you mean?
Yeah, for the race. So like, maybe like get outside in a t-shirt. Yeah. I don't know. People seem to chirp people for wearing shorts in the winter, but I mean, I think it really helps getting conditioned in the cold. So I go out like a couple times a day and like way less clothing than is appropriate, and I don't mean like naked.
Depending on location.
If I was here, different. I'd be fully clothed, right?
That's right. That's
what I meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, like wearing shorts and a t-shirt, going out for 5 minutes, and trying not to get goosebumps, doing like box breathing, stuff like that we've talked about. Just trying not to get cold and being in control of your state. Doing some running. For me, I'll probably run like maybe once or like one or two other times, just so I like can be like, okay, I do know how to run, okay. And then like, there was this one picture. So like I said, like I'm not necessarily a good runner on paper at all. I just do like a couple hard things. And there was this one picture I posted from like 2 years ago. This is like after the 50K run I did, where my hips were fucked for like. Literally, I felt like the muscles were going to fall off the bone.
I remember.
Yeah. And I posted a picture, and Dan like really humbly like commented. You said something about my technique, like I can help you on your technique. Or something. Yeah, it was something like that.
It was mostly because it was in the trails like up and down, and it was mostly the downhill component, wasn't it?
Well, the picture I posted, like now I know, I'm like the technique was horrible. I was running uphill and my heels were striking first, so it's like complete opposite of what you want to do. And like
say goodbye to your kneecaps.
Yeah, say goodbye to everything. My arms felt good, but yeah, that's anyway. So I don't even know where I was going with that. I was just talking about
running technique. You might go for a few runs to fine tune.
One or two.
Don't strike your heels first on a.
Don't strike your heels first. Yeah, just like I don't know, just be normal fit, do different shit. And practice.
Do
normal shit?
Yeah. How's fitness?
Or normal fit, do
what did you say?
Shit.
What did you say?
We'll have to listen to it back.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. That was good though.
What do you think I said?
Yeah, now I'm confused and everybody just said something.
I think one thing that we have in common too is our affinity to focusing on breathing too. So I think if we were going to give like a quick tip, not to ruin people's running if you're used to a certain type of breathing, but start nose breathing more. Like we've had a couple podcasts, we all talk about it in some capacity, which is cool. That's a little bit different. But this is like potentially a longer run, and I'm not necessarily the best suited to win this. Like I have no idea. Like I know that you're a better runner than me, but we'll just see what happens. But I know one thing that will help is staying in control of your breathing and nose breathing as much as you can, so that it's more sustainable.
And also, I wondered, at least in my experience, I used to be a distance runner, and then I've set that, I guess my shoes, I was going to say that hat down, but...
The bowling shoes.
Yeah, the bowling shoes down, yeah. My hips hurt from that. But I found the hardest thing was like transitioning seasonally with my breath, because the winter is really hard on your chest. Or at least I feel that. Like my lungs kind of burn when I'm going for a run when it's cold outside. Do you guys notice that, or are you like calloused enough on the inside to feel?
I think for me, just because I always did sports in the cold, like the speed skating and hockey in a ring, so yeah, it was just normal for me. But there are, like I skated with speed skaters that had exercise-induced asthma that was only in cold environments, which isn't great when you're a speed skater. But
yeah, that'd be tough.
Dan's going to be sucking on peppermint the entire time.
Yeah.
Keep it real cold.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Have a cold cough on your forehead.
Yeah.
On your forehead.
On your forehead.
All right. And what about, so the training wise, we've only got a couple weeks left. And then, so with this potentially being like a longer race, what are you guys thinking of nutritionally or hydrationally?
Dan's answer stays the same.
Nothing for you?
Water with salt.
Water with salt. For the race, you're not going to do any like sort of prep beforehand?
No, and then peanut butter and jam sandwiches or something.
Take some of Teddy's lunch.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
Teddy doesn't like peanut butter.
Really?
I can't understand it.
He just doesn't like it.
Just doesn't like it. Where I am obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people are. Are they? The stats are probably most over 50%.
Let's do a quick poll. Oh, 100%.
Oh, 100%. Nice. I knew it was higher than 50.
It's higher, a little bit.
He's also left-handed, so I wonder if that has something to do.
Ooh, you know what? My partner, Jordan was listening to a podcast that said, sorry, RJ, if this is chaotic.
No, it's all good.
Left-handers are more likely to be sociopaths, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Now.
Something to look out for.
Yeah, just keep an eye on some behavior. Okay. More likely.
I was going to think race car driver, but...
Well, all in favor of left hands being sociopaths.
This is my left hand. I'm raising up.
My mom's left-handed, and one of my...
Are you leaving because of that?
Yeah, I'm out.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. Fair enough.
Yeah, why not?
Keep one eye open while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
There's not really a rhyme or reason right now, so I'm just going to... reset the clock. Anyway,
I have a question about the race. You guys, we're going to talk nutrition before we get into left-handed sociopaths.
That's next, I think.
Actually, one thing I will say, I was listening to a podcast with John Berardi last night, and he was talking about always getting asked. So John Berardi is, for those who don't know, co-founder of Precision Nutrition, world-leading expert in nutrition, asked a lot about day of the race or day of the event. And he said
physiologically, it's not going to do anything. Just eat something that's not going to upset your stomach. That's it. So if you know there's foods that settle well, just eat that.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be
don't stress about it.
Yeah.
Because stress is going to make it even worse. You're going to get like bloated and gassy, and that's not comfortable either.
It's kind of interesting, eh? Like the stuff you do before a competition, like we've all done different competitions, and a lot of people listening have too. Mm-hmm. You're probably not changing anything,
right?
Really, like you maybe eat a bit more.
Yeah,
like that's it. Like you've already trained for it. You're already going to do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I think people signing up for this probably have a baseline of running in some capacity, right?
Yeah. So, they probably have a good idea, like, I'm going to try to win this, or, I'm just going to try to do the first couple half-hour slots, and that's great for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's cool. I don't know that you're going to surprise yourself and win if your goal is just to run for an hour.
Yeah.
So, I think it's all what you put in, like, way before, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think with it being colder, probably, like, hydration maybe is not as critical as if it were, like, in the heat of the summer.
Okay.
But I think, well, with sort of this, I think there's still some strategy to consider, right? Because if you chug water for 10 minutes during your break after you finish each lap, you're going to struggle.
You might barf.
I don't know if, as being not a runner, I don't know if like 2.8K is enough where you'd want a Camelback, or to kind of keep that hydration through that part of it, or if you're just going to like sip a little bit between. I don't know if the sort of volume of water change is going to be drastic with that kind of distance, especially on like a colder day or what. But I just thought that was something that maybe people could consider or think about.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. And I think it depends on your breathing too. Like, if you're mouth breathing a lot more, you're going to feel like that need for more water more often.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're nose breathing, like you can go longer, you don't get dry mouth as quick.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to play into strategy.
So are you guys probably just going to keep water bottles or whatever at the rest station?
I think so.
You're not going to take anything with you for it?
I think, that's probably. I remember one run I did in the summer. I had this, it was almost, I was challenging myself. This is like a couple years ago. I was challenging myself on how little water I could drink during a run, which is like maybe stupid, maybe not. It doesn't matter. It's already gone. And I had 40 milliliters of water for like a 25K run. And it was kind of interesting because I drank like a sip of it at like 18K. And then like the rest of it, I was like, shit, I got more water than I started with. So I like felt great after. And it's like an interesting way to kind of like, I don't know, call it negative split for water.
Well, I mean,
a little more the next
when you're running, you're like literally in fight or flight, right? Like not in a negative way. You're not combating anything, but your body goes into that state. And when you're there, like all those necessary functions that we have when we're not in fight or flight kind of go away. Like you're not really thirsty unless you are mouth breathing, and you're not hungry, and you don't usually have to go pee, and like it's just. There's not a lot of interruptions there if you are in your own like flow state with running. At least that's what I've found. Like the longest race I've done is only 16K, which feet for me. But I didn't drink any water the whole time.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't even think about it. Like your head's down, you're doing your thing, your body's moving, and when you get to the end, you do what you do and eat your pancakes and whatever. But
sounds good.
But you don't really need it as much as like. You think, and I actually find in previous races I did try to stay hydrated more often, and it slows you down because your mind's thinking like, do I need water? Do I need this? Or your stomach's upset because you drank too much, and then you get a cramp, and so it's kind of like sensory deprivation in a way.
Yeah,
in some capacity.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear. It's like the flip side when I was talking to Dr. Sean Francis after his that ruck. For the Iron Warrior, I think it was called, and his was like to a T, with like I think it was like 50 mils of water at a time with like 7 grams of carbs because 10 grams of carbs or whatever it was, and like every 5 minutes he had the timer going off.
Oh wow!
It was well, he was carrying a 50-pound pack for like 30 kilometers, and then he had to canoe, and then he had to run, sprint to the finish line. But his performance improved by over an hour since compared to last year. And so it sounded to me like there was a lot of that. His training was more on point too. So it is hard to tease apart which thing was more significant for the improved performance, but that's a giant improvement in performance. And I was just curious if it was also in the summer and etc. But carrying the extra weight probably burns through more fuel. It's probably, I'm sure physiology is adjusted to handle the load and stuff. So there's a bunch of different things going on there, but it's interesting to hear the flip side of it. And
well, have you ever? I'm really going to mess this up, but the Andy Galpin reference to baker, chefs, and cooks.
Yeah.
So some people are like bakers, and everything is very precise. You need the exact ingredient list, or it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Cooks, basically, you tell them what to do, they follow the orders, and that's how they get through the process. Whereas chefs, you can give them a list of ingredients, whatever it is, then they're just going to put it all together and make something delicious.
Right.
So I think how people approach it, he sounds more like a baker, where everything is very where I think we're more like chefs. You can give us, here's half a bottle of water, 2 Twinkies, and a piece of bread. Figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
And that's how we get there. Whereas other people are like, okay, more directions, but you can kind of follow them. Maybe not as precise as a baker.
Right.
I mean, that's not the best reference to what Andy Galpin said, but
no, that
makes a lot of sense.
But yeah,
it's a good point to make.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit in doing what you said Sean Francis does. I definitely know there's a handful of people that I ever competed against or are friends with that are really like precise and critical with things, and that's cool. I just never been interested in that.
Yeah.
I'm always like, oh man, it's a lot of work, and I just, for some reason, I like the idea of it, but I never do it. And I don't know if it's because of the sensory deprivation stuff where I was like, now I need to get more in tune with my body because I don't know what time it is and I have to feel things.
Yeah.
Or else I don't know what will happen.
Yeah.
So I almost think the flip side of that is just being a little bit more like body oriented, maybe call it somatic, I don't know. But just really trying to pay attention to what's going on in your body while you're doing these things so that you can do the best you can to adjust accordingly to how you feel versus external parameters, time or whatever.
Yeah.
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 I think it just depends on like what makes you feel secure in what you're doing, right? Like,
sure, yeah.
If it makes you feel at peace to drink whatever whenever,
exactly.
Then calm your anxieties by doing that. If it makes you feel more at peace to tune into your body, then do that. Like, it comes back to self-awareness.
If I know you just looked at Unplugged, the book.
No.
Oh, I thought you were looking over there.
No,
because that is basically exactly what he is talking about. Maybe not. I don't know, RJ.
Yeah.
I just met him.
You want to talk about it?
It's exactly what Josh was talking about. It's kind of paralysis by analysis of all the data and like smart watches and I've got to follow this metric and I can't, if I go past this speed, I'm going to blow up and that kind of stuff. Whereas getting more in tune with your body and like listening to your breath, feeling the sensations, listening to when like just more, I guess, in tune with your body.
Yeah.
As we always say, know yourself.
Yeah. Every podcast that doesn't have a guest on, I'm like, everybody's like, any tips for this topic? And I'm like, self-awareness. That's like any blanket statement. It's like when I grew up in church, the answer was always just Jesus.
Know someone else.
What's that?
Know someone else.
Yeah.
Know him.
Yeah, but now it's self-awareness. I have a big question. Well, maybe it's not a big question. I'm just so curious. What are you guys putting on your feet for this run? Are you wearing shoes or are you just wearing your feet?
I'm not wearing the shoes I wore last time, that's for sure.
Yeah, you didn't have much traction. I'll be wearing Zero Terraflex shoes.
Okay,
so
like
Barefoot,
a minimalist
shoe.
But still
grip.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I threw my shoes out. That would have been perfect for this run. I think a lace broke, and I was like, won't need these anymore. So I wore like,
Can't wear shoes with broken laces.
Yeah, I can't. That's impossible. What am I going to do? So I need to buy some. So I'll probably go to Runner's Life and probably grab the same ones I bought last time, but they sound actually quite a bit different than Dan's. but they're soaking you with like a pretty aggressive tread.
Yeah.
Because it will be slippery and it does make a difference. Like you waste a lot of energy trying not to fall.
Yeah. I was just curious. There's a guy in town. Maybe you guys know him, but he runs barefoot like 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So I'd be going for dog walks in Jackson Park or whatever, and you just see this guy like bundled up from the ankles up for winter, and then just his feet just flapping on the like snowy gravel. Yeah.
Man, you know what? I'd be really curious to talk to that guy because I know from being barefoot a lot that my feet are like so conditioned to the cold that in the room temperature they're just hot as shit all the time.
Yeah, probably.
So I can imagine he is like stressed out at home.
Like it probably feels good to do.
Yeah, it probably feels good to be like in like cold temperatures and be like, oh yeah, my feet can relax. My feet get so hot all the time.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I need to do more hot.
It is. It really throws me off when I see Josh wearing socks in the gym.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's a weird day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like you're wearing slippers. Wrong. It's like a treat. I said that to a client. I'm like, man, I wore socks and shoes the other day, like old shoes, and I was like, my feet feel like they're on pillows right now.
Held.
And I was in like a minimalist shoe and like I don't know, icebreaker socks, like nice socks or whatever. But I was like, this feels incredible. But I also don't feel anything at the same time.
True. Interesting. Yeah, there's a much longer conversation there too about the sort of minimalist running and barefoot running. Clearly, Dan, I know you've been doing it for a while, so I guess you kind of realized it works for you. But there was actually, I'll probably reference it. Our friends Dean and Freya, they have a good what's a good Move Daily podcast.
Yeah.
They had this sort of, I think she's a podiatrist, like a foot doctor that's kind of specializes in studying some of this like minimalist footwear versus who needs sort of more support. And it was a very interesting episode because not everybody is built for like barefoot running or minimalist shoes. And it's not just because we've been, as you know, like Kelly Starrett and everybody talks about, we're crammed into these foot coffins. Yeah, that's the right term I was thinking of. But people do just have like naturally higher arches, and they do need like a proper arch support in their footwear in order to not have issues.
Interesting.
Okay. So.
Oh, you disagree.
Do you disagree?
Well, here's the thing. I'm obviously not a doctor.
Yeah.
But anything I know or have read and learned about foot is it's not, the arch is a weight-bearing surface. It's not like you don't need support under it because the goal of an arch is it supports itself. So I don't know why you would need
like a bridge
support under it.
Unless it's weak. Like that's the only reason I would. And again, I also am not a doctor, but I think that people don't spend time strengthening their feet and strengthening the muscles like in their toes and their arches.
Did you listen to that episode?
I didn't. No.
I think that was. I forget all the details. That's why I'll link it for anybody curious. But I think that was part of it because people are doing things like the fascia rolling and everything. They're doing it wrong. So maybe it's more of that gradient towards barefoot, but you do have to like work up to it because if you go straight into it, you're gonna be like crippled.
Oh, it hurts. I tried. I threw myself straight into barefoot running at one point, and I was like, I've got relatively high arches myself, and my left foot just like splintering pain, and I was too deep into it to not like keep going or turn around or whatever. But the more that I condition my feet and actually strengthen them and do exercises that make the muscles in my feet strong, it's totally fine. And what you'll learn is like your knees feel better, your hips feel better, your shoulders start to feel better.
Yeah, alignment's better, right?
Huge.
I think that kind of makes sense too. I mean, you were like used to barefoot training in a lot of ways, like doing
gymnastics,
gymnastics,
all that stuff. Yeah,
but you know, I think another part of her point was with like. Because Dane was, you know, Canadian strongman champion for
That's what I thought you were talking about.
Under 175 pound class.
Sort of strong,
and
right?
Like sort of strong.
He's small. Sorry, Dave.
No, he's very strong.
Yeah, I know. He won.
But like she was also kind of referencing some of like a yoke walk's a very unnatural thing. You've got all this weight, and she's saying like barefoot may not be the best thing because you're like our arches were not developed to withstand something like that, which is where cushioning could help you as far as like an athlete goes in certain things. Like I think she talked about do all of your training like without arch support if you can, or as much of it until like the warm up, etc., until the heavy lifting comes around sometimes.
I can see that. Yeah.
It's worth listening to. It's kind of like, because I was sort of more on the fence, or I was more on like aligned with thinking like everybody should be doing like the minimalist or barefoot as much as possible. But there is like a balance to be found there too, which is interesting.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. Like I wouldn't just jump into a powerlifting competition, right? Because I'm not conditioned for it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with barefoot. Like I wouldn't just jump right into that. I would start doing like exercises for my feet and spreading my toes a little more and like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Before you go for like a 80K run with bare feet, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where the lawsuits came in with Vibram Five Fingers, because people just went from literally 20 mil heel to toe stack to barefoot and then got destroyed.
Yeah.
What's up, shin splints?
Yeah. In what context does that make sense? Do something for 40 years and then do the complete opposite and expect a great result.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like literally deconditioning or like degenerating like the condition of something.
Well, it doesn't make sense, but that's like
how we live.
That's our culture.
That's our culture.
Quick fix.
The you know, like
just
the
go barefoot,
fad.
it'll fix everything.
The fads that we experience with nutrition or fitness or whatever, and people do dive straight in and get less than ideal results because it's the complete opposite.
I think it's cool to dive into stuff too, but don't expect like, what the frig, man, this didn't work perfectly. Like it's like just experiment with it.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on something you said too, because you're talking about people kind of weaning themselves into it, not just going right for it.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason you would want to wean yourself into it too is because looking at like being able to see your feet and being aware of like what your feet look like in positions has a really big it changes how you think about your feet too. I feel like when they're in socks and shoes, like a lot of clients, it's like out of sight, out of mind. I don't know, those are my feet.
Yeah.
Like you could basically call your feet your shoes and it would make no difference. It's like something that's just there. But when you have someone actually expose their feet, it's like, oh yeah, there is like moving parts and like this is part of the chain or part of the system too. And I can see that versus seeing just a block. So it's just like getting people to almost visually see that there's something different there. I think can kind of help with that. So maybe that's a good starting point. That's part of the reason why we say you can train barefoot in our gym. Yeah. And I don't care about the foot fungus stuff. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you keep the floors sanitized, there's not really anything wrong with it, right?
We're going to get a berm this year,
Yeah, that's a good goal. New Year's resolution.
Yeah, we'll wait till the new year.
Yeah, don't start anything now.
Don't just jump into it. Plan. Yeah, come on. Yeah. I got a race to train for.
So there's... I think you've got... There's a cost to it. It's $20, right?
Canadian, yeah.
CAD.
I'm glad we clarified that.
The race is in Canada.
Peterborough.
But not UK.
I thought we were going.
Yeah, not UK. That does have part.
I thought we were going to Lapland.
See, it's a good thing we talked about this.
Where's that?
Finland.
We do the race differently.
Or reindeer.
Anyway, and that's going towards what you need, like, you need to pay Haroldtown or something for the...
Yeah, so the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority just up the road manages that conservation area, so we need a permit, we need insurance, we'll need a porta potty.
Yeah, some liability. Yeah, some basic coverage, I think.
Yeah.
I think technically we're supposed to have some food and water, so we'll have like some water jugs.
Oh, okay.
I think some type of hydration system people can fill up, and maybe some food. I'm sure people are going to want to bring their own food, but maybe
some like bananas or something.
Yeah, something kind of basic. Yeah, to supplement their intake.
So we're playing footsies. I think one thing we should mention too is this isn't
a race where you're going after the belt buckle or the medal or something. This is more about the experience.
Yeah.
Kind of the shared experience with other people.
Yeah.
Lots of high fives, hugs and handshakes, and just being around other people that you enjoy being with, meeting new people. So it's not
pressure's off.
It's not like, oh, where's my medal, or I need this, or I didn't accomplish it. It's not about that.
Yeah, so if that's what you're thinking, don't show up.
Or you still show up.
Just stay silent.
Don't get mad when you don't get a medal.
Yeah. Don't get mad on damn beach.
So where can I sign up for this race?
So we have I'll send you the link, but we have an online registration now, so it's really easy. You have to create a quick account. It's called It's Your Race. Mm-hmm. That's the website.
I wasn't sure if you guys called it the runs or if that was the website.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to when people purchase it with a credit card, because we changed what it says on their bank statement.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now that I know you can do that, I'm gonna have some fun for future events. You can literally write whatever you want. So so we'll have fun with that. So yeah, we'll give you a link. It's $20. I think there's some type of what's the fee they have?
Like a processing fee or something.
Yeah, I think it's like $3. So it's like a super cheap race, and part of that is like literally just to cover the costs of the insurance and that. And we, like Dan said, it's not about this particular race is not about any type of gratification. Like, you're going to get a high five regardless, but we're not getting winner shirts and medals and badges and ribbons. And it's like, did you have fun?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No? Oh.
Sorry.
We didn't bank on that. Yeah.
That's your own fault.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about doing something hard and not receiving a bunch of praise too, right?
Totally.
So I think that's part of the reason.
Cool. Well, I think we're coming up on time. Is there anything else you guys want to say or mention or touch on before we close out?
I'm hoping to see some new faces. I'm really hoping that the fact that it's a short loop of 2.7 kilometers it's not a scary number.
Yeah.
Like almost anyone could do this race technically, and maybe we don't call it a race. Maybe we just call it an outing, and it just happens to repeat. And you can choose, if you're not competitive, don't be afraid, because you can choose when to stop. If you want to do one loop and that's it for your day, then that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, there's no like real official winner. You can just do it as long as you want, and then at the 4-hour mark, if you want to keep going, then that's where we do an elimination round, and feel free to stay in.
Cool.
So it starts at 7 a.m. When do I show up? Will that say on the registration and stuff? Or?
It doesn't, but we'll just start.
Is the first lap at 7?
Yeah.
Okay. So show up, get warmed up.
Yeah. Do your thing to get warmed up, like kind of get situated. We're not going to announce the loop ahead of time, but it will be marked, and you'll be running in a group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, people will kind of accelerate and be ahead or behind, but it's going to be pretty obvious where you're running, and it's a pretty short loop. So, and it's repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be a couple other little tricks and stuff that we'll announce the day of, but I don't want people getting too comfortable.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Nice scarf.
Thank you.
Thanks. This is my racing scarf.
That makes sense.
We'll see you on the 30th.
Yeah.
You know your pace based on how high it flies in behind you?
Is that, like a kite kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to bring my kite, actually.
Nick Andrews might do this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was like, I might do this. I'm like, I hope you do it.
He's a powerlifter, yeah?
Yeah,
Does he do, yeah.
super strong dude with huge
Really
thighs.
weak?
He's got big legs, pardon?
You can grow a nice mustache.
Yeah.
Well, the problem for me is
He'll be a
that
bit better then.
the best photos will be in the first few laps as the sun's rising. So
So you're going to take photos?
I may default on the first lap because I'll be trying to catch photos of everybody.
Come on, man, you can't do that. So serious.
Can
Just
you,
run with your camera.
if we get like a big sled and a body harness, can you just pull people around?
I could try that.
Sled
We're
ride?
going to do, do you want to talk about the sleigh rides? We're going to do?
Oh, you can go ahead.
No, you go.
Maybe we'll just announce.
Yeah, just announce it the day of.
Okay.
That's pretty special.
It's a
Yeah.
special surprise.
Yeah.
So, you definitely want to come out for that.
Special surprise. Something about sleigh rides.
Something about sleigh rides, maybe.
Aw.
Maybe not, actually.
I have toboggans in my trunk if you want to just use those, Dave.
The last lap will just toboggan down the main hill.
With the new wood in front.
I was going to say the wood stuff. That'll be
we'll have a jump.
Fun.
Did you know that when we were doing the recon, you were there?
Probably. I did not know that, but yes, I'm there almost every day.
What's the recon? Some type of mission you were a part of?
Is that when you guys...
Oh, you're talking about when you and I were there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was there.
All right.